Honest with Hannah. This is episode 3, and I'm here with Dr. Guinn. Dr. Guinn, how are you today?
I'm doing great. It's a privilege. Thank you.
It's a pleasure to have you on my show. You were the one who actually helped me create the vision of this show. How does it feel to finally be in the seat, ask the questions?
I'm really excited, and especially when you said, let's be honest with Hannah, I was kind of concerned because do some people get on this show and not be honest?
I hope everyone who comes on the show is honest.
Good.
But normally I'm with athletes or with coaches. You're a bit different. You're a professor, you're an author, you're an actor, you're a coach, the list goes on. So your journey is a bit different to a normal student athlete. But I want to kind of talk to you about when you were in college. You went to UT Austin and Baylor, some of the best schools in the nation. How was your college experience?
Transformative would be the number one word that comes to mind. So I was 18, packed up my car, drove all the way up from San Antonio to Waco, Texas, got to Baylor, and from day one, it was just incredible. And that was primarily because I had amazing mentors. And, to jump into a little bit of my story, it was those mentors at Baylor who inspired me to be like them and to someday be a college professor, be someone who's involved in students' lives.
What were some things that you struggled with in college?
Identity. I showed up and I had been going to the same school from when I was 18 months old until I was 18 years old. So it was a private Christian school here in San Antonio, great school. But in that time, there's not a lot of room for evolving your identity. You're kind of the same person you were in diapers that you were when you walked the stage. You've been around the same people, talking about the same things. So I go off to Baylor, and immediately it was this realization that I can be anybody that I want. But then with that is not just the freedom of being someone, it's the responsibility of being someone that you'd be proud of. And so that's where, that mix of discovering my identity, but the fortunate situation of having incredible mentors around me, that's why, for me, college was transformative.
And you've been at UIW now for 10 years. And you teach some of my favourite classes, public speaking. That's probably my favourite class I've ever taken at school, interpersonal communications. Would you say you've been a good communicator your whole life? Would you say you've been a good public speaker your whole life? Or are those skills that you've developed in college and through adulthood?
Well, we'll let people watching the interview decide if I'm a good communicator. But I think for me, my fascination with communication did come from a young age. I went to church where there was a great pastor who was very inspiring. I had teachers who were very inspiring. I was around politicians, local and regional and national as a young person. And I was always drawn to who are these great communicators and how do they do what they do and why is it so effective? Not just from a stage, but even just like in this interpersonal dialogue that we're having right now, those things always fascinated me. And so I don't know if it was my fascination with it that drove me to want to be better at communicating, but we'll let others decide if I'm any good at it, but I have always been fascinated by it.
Oh, good. What are some main tips you'd give people? For someone who's not comfortable speaking in front of a big group of people who they don't know, what would you say to them to help improve their skills, their public speaking skills?
Well, there's a temptation in me to just start rattling off what the textbook says, and to start saying, "Well, focus."
PowerPoint.
Yeah, exactly. And just start I could hold forth and teach class right now. But one of the things that I've really learned to help people focus on is there's twofold. Like if you came into my office right now distressed and said, "I have an interview tomorrow, help me," I would immediately start trying to help you with content and delivery, and I wouldn't focus on you. I would just focus on how we make sure that you have solid content and deliver it well. If you said to me, I want to be a great communicator and I have this goal of giving a really grand presentation in 6 months, I would approach it a bit differently. And I would allow that time for us to focus on some of the internal work, because to be a great communicator, you can't just kind of dress yourself up as one. You really do have to ask yourself, what are the blockers on the inside? And a lot of times it could be things around confidence. It could be things around other insecurities and anxieties that go beyond how well do you articulate and gesture.
So would you say it's quite a personal thing? It's different for each individual, what tips you'd give them?
Absolutely,
What device?
because the experience that people have on a stage or the experience that people have on a first date, I mean, that for many people can be anxiety inducing, just like an interview can be. Whatever it is that might be tripping you up, a good coach and a good educator will actually say, well, here's what we know makes for great communication, but let me get to know you so I can understand what might be standing in the way for you. And so with that comes dealing with all that internal work stuff.
As I mentioned before, you're also an author. One of my favourite books of yours is Adventures in Adulting. What would your inspiration behind that book be? What was the inspiration when you were writing it and when you published it?
You. And what I mean by and what I mean by that is the fact that a college student would look across from me one day and say, your book meant something to me and it really helped me put some pieces of my puzzle together. That was the inspiration. And ironically, the book was written in the summer of 2019, and I met you in August of 2019 when you took the course that the book was used for.
Oh, wow.
So when I say it was written for you, I didn't know you, but it was written for you.
And you're a coach to employees who work for global companies, Apple, AT&T. When you're working with these people who are so high up in companies, what are some similarities you see between them adults to a freshman in college in their communication skills?
That is an excellent question, and I'll be more than happy to tell you, but the answer might surprise you. So the first thing that I observe is that the hiccups, hang-ups, hardships, whatever it might be that they experience with communication are no different than those that you, I, and some of the people in our classroom experience. The greatest difference is, have you heard the phrase, necessity is the mother of invention? And meaning that when you need something, you will go and find it. In a classroom, the same things that I'm teaching to an 18-year-old who's taking a first-time public speaking course isn't far different than the things that I'm teaching to a 40-year-old executive making really a lot of money. But the difference is that 18-year-old can sometimes say, this sounds cool. He's a relatively engaging professor, but they don't always have some of that internal need or desire to grasp, hold on to, and utilize the information we're talking about in class. That executive who's 40 and their job depends on it, they are so eager for the information and so grateful to receive it.
People say, whenever I say Dr. Guinn, all I hear is good things. Positivity, gratitude. But aside from them personality traits, you also have hobbies, I'm guessing. I've heard you're a big coffee drinker. I know you're an avid runner. We recently went to the UIW Run Club. What are some other hobbies you like to do when you're not in class, or writing books, or starring in major films?
Well, you've done your homework and we also spend time together. So you know me and you know that, yes, coffee is probably a hobby that I shouldn't be proud of, more like a habit than a hobby.
Yeah, you live with it.
And then running is for sure a hobby that I discovered as an adult, and it's been so healing and so good for me. And it's also been a space where I can spend time with people that I love. And as well, the acting and the writing, anything that's creative. I'll tell you that I have a tendency to get so busy doing that I don't stop and enjoy the creative moments. And so I'm fortunate for people and grateful for people who will tell me, Trey, block your calendar and make time to write. Block your calendar and make time to act and do the things that are creative, because that really is where I refuel and rejuvenate. And so
to
I enjoy that.
appreciate your work, I can imagine. Very rewarding once you've written a book and you read it back. I can imagine it's quite rewarding to read or watch a film that you starred in.
That's a very wise thing to say. I once heard this phrase. I can't remember who it's credited to, but the idea being that some people say that learning comes through experiences, and so, experiences are the great teacher. I once heard someone say, well, not really, because if you never take time to stop and reflect on the experiences, you've had them, but they haven't really rooted into you, and you haven't taken the time to let them really take hold. And so what you're talking about is it's a wise thing to acknowledge, that if you don't step back and actually say, hold on, something big just happened, I want to breathe it in and enjoy it.
Yeah. Definitely. Well, now on to the quick fire questions.
Oh no.
This is my favourite part of our show. So literally one word answers, not really much explaining needed. Could be hard for you.
I know.
So my first question is, what's your favourite book?
The Bible.
Okay, other than the Bible, what would you say to someone, you have to read this book? We appreciate and love the Bible, but...
Love this book. For me, The Count of Monte Cristo was the one that turned me on to reading.
Okay, wow, that's a big one. What is the best piece of advice you've ever been given? Maybe I should have sent you these questions.
These are so good, Hannah. I am going to hold on to that one. Let's make it the last.
Okay. Who's your biggest inspiration? These get harder as they go along.
Okay, well, I already said the Bible. You're going to get mad if I say Jesus.
Oh, no, that's, yeah. No, I respect that a lot. What's your favourite part of the UIW Communication Arts Department?
The community. And the fact that it is like student-centered from top to bottom.
I think it's that hallway as well. There's something in the air in that hallway.
Yeah.
And what's your favourite type of food?
Healthy food.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So maybe like salads. Been to Salada?
I have not. It sounds fancy though.
No, it's in the quarry. Definitely,
Okay.
Everyone should go try Salada. Best piece of advice ever given. We have to come back to that question.
Gratitude. Everything comes back to gratitude. And if you don't have gratitude, if you don't find a way to wake up grateful for all the many blessings you have, I mean, you could have all the money in the world, but without gratitude, where's the joy in it? I
agree. I love that. I think we should end on that note. So there we have it, guys. Dr. Guinn, thank you for coming on the show. It's about to be fall break. Have you got any plans?
Yes, I'm going to Houston with some students for a conference, and I'm going to work with some students presenting their material to the Texas Speech Communication Association.
Awesome. Well, enjoy. Thank you everyone for watching. Join us next time on Let's Be Honest with Hannah.